Oh, once again, it's time for us to address the hard-hitting news topics that for some reason or another, the 24-hour news channels refuse to cover. Such as who's the true villain of Dragon Ball Z, and why CNN refuses to cover it. Just think about this. Who is so obstructionist, who is so interfering, who is so intervening that they refuse to let anyone else rise to the occasion? Could it possibly be the tyrant Frieza? Maybe the cybernetic evil that is Cell? Or could it be the beefy bully that is Majin Buu? The person I have in mind, her interference, her intervention, is having a trickle-down effect that's affecting everyone she's connected to. Ah yes, I'm talking about Chi-Chi, the lovely wife of Goku, the mother of Gohan and Goten. Chi-Chi at the surface level seems like a loving mother trying to take care of her children in a world that's consistently threatened. However, that could be a ploy to hide her true villainous intentions that go far beyond the pale of any previous Dragon Ball villain, such as unleashing her husband on the unsuspecting drivers of West City, or maybe her ultimate goal of completely undermining and meddling in her son Gohan's sex life. Which, yeah, strangely enough, she did try to do. She actually did meddle in his sex life. You think about this for a second. Gohan lived under her thumb for many a years. He lived in the middle of nowhere, had no friends, he only had Icarus to hang out with when his mom wasn't looking. Finally manages to loosen the umbilical cord enough to go to the city, make some new friends, even manages to court a girl enough to come back to his place with him. You know, Gohan, Super Saiyan indeed, bro. But that still wasn't enough for Chi-Chi. She had to intervene, she had to interfere and prevent him from having any sort of social life.
And the last thing we need is for Gohan to be distracted from his training by a hussy like you! I'm not a hussy! We're training for a martial arts tournament, not eloping!
Oh, Videl, darling, don't you understand that a martial arts tournament to these people's no different than a sexual liaison written honeymoon? Though the point remains that Chi-Chi will do almost anything to prevent that from happening. She tried to snuff that shit out faster than her husband snuffed out Frieza. Though, admittedly, that might not be the best reference because it took them like 30 or so episodes to finally beat Frieza. Okay, I'll try again. She snuffed that shit out faster than Yamcha's dumbass got snuffed out by the Cybermen. I mean, Yamcha, how bad can you be that you're losing to the Beneath JV team? You were in episode 4 of Dragon Ball. You have seniority, you've been there since the beginning, more so than most people in the series, and yet you're losing to these dumbasses that they're planting into the ground in front of you, and they raise them up just so they can kill you. You didn't even last an episode. Regardless, Chi-Chi's the real problem here. Videl is actually a pretty decent character, despite being related to the ever-bizarre Mr. Satan. Really bizarre. Despite Chi-Chi's interference into Gohan's sexual proclivities and overall cock-blockedness, Chi-Chi and Videl actually do manage to forge a pretty decent relationship together over the course of the rest of the series. But the question remains, does this make Chi-Chi a villain, or just a mother with an umbilical cord longer than Goku's power pole? I don't know. I think it makes her weird and a little bit creepy, but I don't know if her interfering in Gohan's love life really rises to the occasion of her being a villain. However, in some cases, her interference and overall undermining has put the greater Dragon Ball universe at risk before. She didn't like the idea of him going off to Namek. She didn't like the idea of him training to fight the androids, and she certainly didn't like the idea of him fighting in the Cell games. It speaks to a greater narrative with Chi-Chi, and that is, I'm going to prioritize your education over the safety and well-being of the entire planet. And you would think, considering all the various villains Chi-Chi's seen threaten the Earth, she would notice Gohan's talent and say, you know what, I better support you in this endeavor, or we're all gonna die.
Now watch this. Here's just a little taste of what you'll be up against. Come and get me if you dare.
But that's just not Chi-Chi. That's not the type of character she is. She will always prioritize education over the well-being of the entire planet. Unfortunately, it usually takes Goku begging and pleading with Chi-Chi, and explaining somehow this is beneficial to his education, for her to actually give way and let him take part. Which, to Chi-Chi's credit, she does usually tend to give way. Unfortunately, it tends to be after the damage has been done. This is clearly seen after the Cell Saga, when Gohan has regressed as a fighter due to spending almost no time training. The reasoning behind this could be found with Chi-Chi, who often uses the downtime between sagas and arcs to focus on his education, often in using weird methods such as whipping children, and I don't know why this guy has an 80s porn star look to him, and I don't know why she thought it was okay to hire him. This is also seen in that gap in time between the Cell Saga and Buu Saga, where we see Gohan running around as a superhero and getting blackmailed into dates because he couldn't hide his underwear from girls.
He's hiding something underneath! He's wearing some underwear that only a 3-year-old would wear!
Exactly right, Gohan. It highlights the lack thereof priority that's been placed on protecting the planet. Just up until that point, it keeps happening, and of course happening. Oh, and guess what? It happens again. What this really stems back to is the fact that Chi-Chi had determined at Gohan's birth that he would go on to become a scholar or a scientist, and in the process he would better the world and those around him. The problem with her line of thought is that Gohan already accomplished that as a Saiyan warrior. Not to mention, it's kinda hard to better the lives of those around you if no one is able to fight whatever villain's currently threatening them. In reality, what good will all of his studying amount to if the planet's destroyed by a powerful enemy that Gohan otherwise would have been able to compete with? Furthermore, if you look at the sheer volume of lives he's saved through defeating an enemy such as Cell, who threatened to kill all the lives on the planet, he's really not that much different than the person who created the smallpox vaccine. But does this mean that Chi-Chi's a villain? Well, just like before with Gohan's love life, it's kinda tough to say. In most cases, she tends to renege and actually give way. However, there's little denying that her monopolization of Gohan's time has put his preparedness at a lesser standing. This was seen in practically every time skip, such as the Namek to Android arc or the Cell to Buu arc. You could infer that she actually was hurting the group more than helping them. Even the Kame house gets it. Had Gohan actually been allowed to train between each of the arcs, maybe the group wouldn't have been forced to jump through so many hoops as they did. Just look at Krillin here. Hey buddy. When you consider all the hardships and sacrifices they've had to endure, a good bit of it could have been avoided.
Well, she's a lot older than I am!
Although it's fun to consider alternate history, it seems like a fight with Chi-Chi's inevitable regardless of what route you take.
But I've always been the prettiest one, and you know that! You think skimpy clothes make you prettier? Well, think again, you bimbo!
Even poor Bulma can't avoid it.
Cat fight!
Speaking of cats, she's actually choking out this cat right now. So as it stands, Chi-Chi might be a cockblock, she might be an obstructionist, and, well, she might bite on Polaroids, which is weird. But is she a villain? That's for you to decide. Everything being said, Chi-Chi's probably not the worst character that I'm making her out to be. Yes, she can be annoying, yes, she's contributed to hurting the planet's defenses, but truthfully, Chi-Chi was dealt a fairly shitty hand. Throughout most of Gohan's life, Goku's either dead or away training, leaving Chi-Chi to raise him on her own. This was probably what led her towards pushing him away from fighting and in favor of something less risky and more safe. Ultimately, Chi-Chi's a very complex character, probably more so than she was intended to be. Is she the unintended villain who unknowingly puts the planet at risk? Or is she just a loving mother who wants what's best for her children? Let me know in the comments section what you think. Please be sure to slap that like button if you liked it, subscribe if you'd like to see more episodes just like this. Regardless, thank you for watching.
And you just let him run off!
Thanks for the flowers.